If you follow the Academy Awards, and I don't mean religiously because, oh my God, that would be sad. I just mean if every year you're aware of the Academy Awards coming out with their nominations, you've probably long since noticed that almost immediately following the announcement of the nominations, everyone starts talking about snubs. What was snubbed? Who was snubbed? Why they were snubbed. What makes all of this even funnier is that none of these Oscar snubs are even real. Now you may be thinking, well, of course snubs are real. I personally know of several movies that didn't get any nominations at all, and that's true. There's always movies and performers and craftspeople at work who aren't getting their proper recognition, but that's not the same thing as a snub. Now, I realize that snub can simply be defined as being ignored or disregarded, which would apply in many of these cases, but the word snub itself, it implies a kind of malicious intent. It implies people colluding, people getting together and deciding, we're not going to nominate this person. And yeah, that just doesn't happen. First of all, you have to look at not only the size of the industry itself, the number of movies released each year, but also the size of the membership of the Academy itself. As of 2024, it is approaching 10,000 active members. 10,000. And over 50% of those members are over the age of 60. There are, in other words, plenty of people voting for Academy Awards who received an invitation to join from a nomination in the 1960s, and they're still voting today. The idea of getting this disparate group of people together to all agree to not vote for somebody or some movie is ridiculous on its face. The other thing that makes snubs seem real is the lobbying that is real that has led to movies winning. That's a whole different thing. Lots of lobbying has occurred in the history of the Academy Awards that has pushed certain movies and certain performers into getting their ultimate glory by winning the Oscar. But that's a different thing because what that requires is getting that movie or getting that performance out in front of enough people, putting that name out there enough times that it becomes the de facto nominee that someone looks at and votes for when it comes time to fill out their ballot. Because they've heard that name and heard about that movie endlessly for the last 4 or 5 weeks because of the relentless lobbying. That's a whole different thing. Snub is kind of the negative inverse of that. And that's just not a real thing. So when you get down to the histrionics of each year's snubs, like things like this, with Angelina Jolie being near tears because it proves Hollywood is Team Brad, come on. Over half of the membership of the Academy doesn't even know who Angelina and Brad are, for God's sakes, much less being able to get together and decide which team they're on. I guarantee you at least half of the membership of the Academy, when they saw Maria Callas being put out there for your consideration, probably said, "Who's Angelica Jolie?" They don't even know what's going on. Trust me, they're not actively getting together to snub anybody. So why didn't Angelina Jolie get nominated for her role as Maria Callas? Well, I'll tell you why. Nobody was really talking about it. That's why. I hate to define the Academy's active membership as children, but they're pretty much going to vote for whatever big, shiny thing's right in front of their face at the time they get their ballots. I mean, they really, truly are, okay? People like to talk about how critics don't really have an impact on the success of movies. Well, they definitely have an impact on the success of nominations. If critics talk enough about certain movies and performances, it's almost guaranteed those movies and performances are going to be the ones that get the nominations during the award season. And I know, because I'm in the critical community. I have been a professional writer in the movie critic world for over 15 years now, and I can tell you, nobody was talking about Maria Callas. They just weren't. They weren't talking about Angelina Jolie's performance in it. It's not that they were talking about it in a negative way. They liked it. We all thought it was a really, really good performance. But it just wasn't getting the kind of play that you need to get that nomination. Because the nomination in the end, and I'm sorry to say this because I know it's supposed to be an award of merit. I almost got through that with a straight face. It's supposed to be an award of merit, but come on, let's face it. It's just a peer award. It's just people patting each other on the back. And again, for at least half the voters, it's just whatever has dropped in front of their face at the time they're voting. And if there's one category that gets snub mentions more than any other category, it's Best Director. In fact, Best Director is associated with snub probably easily more than any other category in the history of the Oscars. Every year you always hear about someone being snubbed for Best Director. This year, it was, of course, Wicked that didn't get a Best Director nomination. And Michelle Yeoh apparently was talking about how the cast was crying over this. I don't know if that's true or not. I seriously doubt it. But if it is true, let me try and help out, if you remember of the Wicked cast. The director, John Chu, was not snubbed. What happened was simply this. There are more movies nominated for Best Picture than there are nominations for Best Director. As a result, mathematically, you will have directors of movies nominated for Best Picture that do not get nominated for Best Director. Even before they went to 10 nominees for Best Picture, they still regularly ran into issues where one director of one of the nominees for Best Picture wasn't nominated. And even then, when there were 5 nominees for Best Picture and 5 for Best Director and one didn't get nominated, it still wasn't a snub. Here's why. If we actually look at the rules of voting, it works like this. For most categories, members from each of the branches vote to determine the nominees only in their respective categories, i.e., only directors vote for directors, writers for writers, actors for actors, etc. In the special case of Best Picture, it's special. All voting members are eligible to select the nominees. So when the members of the director's branch are writing down individually, by the way, not together as a group, but individually in their homes, when they're writing down who they think should be nominated for Best Director, they have no idea who the eventual nominees for Best Picture are going to be. So they don't know if the ones they're putting down for Best Director are even going to be directing movies that get nominated for Best Picture. They don't know that. There's not this weird overlap where they can see who all the nominees are going to be. And so occasionally you're going to have a director who just doesn't get nominated. And now, with 10 nominees for Best Picture and only 5 for Best Director, it's going to happen even more. So again, not only is the snubbing not taking place, but it would be really hard to organize if it were. You'd have to get everyone together within a voting branch, I guess on a big email thread, and say, okay guys, make sure you don't vote for John Chu. Don't vote for Angelina. Remember, we're Team Brad. And then you just gotta hope that everybody actually follows orders and does that, which they're not gonna do because, again, we're talking about people who have worked in the industry from as far back as the 40s until today. They're from all different eras. They're from all different studios, all different agencies, all different parts of the world, quite honestly. You're not going to get them together to actively snub anybody, ever. Don't even try. Not only is it just pretty much logistically impossible, it requires a level of organization and expertise that I guarantee you the members of the Academy Awards just don't have. We're not talking about 16th century political philosophers here, guys. We're talking about people in the movie industry. Okay, they have a tough time in an intellectual standoff with a cat. So whenever you hear about things being snubbed, chances are they're not. Snubs really aren't a thing. Sometimes movies just get a lot of nominations and no awards. And sometimes they don't get any nominations at all. And believe me, every single year, a movie that I love, an actor that I love, a director that I love, does not get nominated. It happens every single year. It drives me crazy, but I know none of it is happening on purpose or with any deliberate, intentional malice. It's just a bunch of people in an industry giving themselves awards. That's all. That's all I got for now. If you liked it, please give it a like and subscribe because it really does help the channel grow. I really appreciate it. And for everyone out there, as always, drive safely.